Starting a process of working out and interviewing players eligible for the draft. Some players can still withdraw. There's a date in June where they can withdraw, although we expect most of the players that have put their name in would stay in. We know the picks we have. We have two. We have 27 and 34, so we'll have various workouts with various levels of talent. Obviously, today's group, are not players that we're considering, for the second pick in the draft. But there's a lot of players that we would consider at 27 and 34.
Is there a certain amount of anxiousness that you have because you do have the second pick?
Well, the anxiousness disappeared when I didn't see Philly at 7 and 6. Their number come up on the lottery last Tuesday. So at that point we realized we had a top 5 pick and we were going to keep it. Of course, it got better. Went from 5 to 4 to 3. Actually, a commercial break at 3 to add to the tension, and we ended up with the 2 pick.
Mitch, you do your homework, you compile your notes. What are you looking for when the guys get on the court?
Well, most of the players we've seen multiple times over the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of typically the kids that are high draft choices, and it's not a rule, but typically they go to school for a year or 2. So you get to see them less. We're not allowed in high school gyms anymore. So, for example, if you were to guess that this year's top 7 or 8 picks in the draft are the ones that you see in mock drafts, most of those kids are 19 years old. So you've seen them 1 year in college. Bringing them in this type of a venue, a lot of the kids have been in school 3 or 4 years because they're players that might be drafted in the second round, might not be drafted, or might be drafted late in the first round. And you'll end up looking at a lot of players that went to school for 3 or 4 years. So it's always helpful to bring them in, get another look at them, put them through skills, do our physical testing. A lot of times we interview kids and you get to know the kids.
How much does that interviewing, Mitch, play a role, or can it be a leaner towards, boy, I like this kid more, like him less, in terms of character and how they respond?
It's a piece of the puzzle. A lot of times, like I said, for kids that have been around 3 or 4 years, we know them, we know their coaches, we talk to their coaches. There's a lot about it on the internet. They talk to players who played with them, so you get various levels of information. But the interview is one more piece to the puzzle.
Is the process just a little bit easier because you know the pick that you have, and it can be construed as you know what you want?
Well, after the year we have, it's nice to know what we have to work with going forward. We know we have 2, 27 and 34, and that's a good feeling. We can kind of put the season behind us and plan for the draft. And once the draft takes place, then we could continue to plan, for what takes place on July 1st. So being able to put the season behind us and having something positive to show for it's a good thing.
Mitch, in terms of team improvement, what are your biggest needs as you look at these guys during the process?
Well, we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of players that were on 1-year deals this year. We have players that have options, whether it's a team option or a player option. So those questions remain, unanswered. We have a lot of roster spots. Assuming we draft 3 players and keep them on the roster for next year, that takes up 3 roster spots, and that gives less opportunity to somebody else. But we don't know if we're going to draft 3 players. We don't know if we're going to have 3 picks. We may draft a player that you might have to wait a year or 2 somewhere in Europe. We don't know yet. But our roster looks better, clearly, after getting the pick in the lottery last Tuesday.
Mitch, how many players do you think you'll bring in that you might consider at number 2?
Well, we'll probably bring in, as many as the representatives will allow us to bring in. If a representative feels that we're not genuine in considering that player at number 2, they probably wouldn't send him in. So we'd like to bring in as many as possible. There's the conception that there's 4 players there. I think there might be more. There are European players that might not be done playing and get time to come over here to work out. So I would say at least 4, hopefully 6 to 8.
When do you think those would begin?
I don't think they'll take place, this week, so you guys won't be here Thursday. I know that for sure. So you're free to do what you want to do on Thursday, hopefully in a week or two.
Mitch, what sort of variables are you weighing as far as the option of trading the number 2 pick?
Nothing's really, taking place in that regard. It would have to be a heck of an opportunity for us to consider doing something like that.
What would you look for? What would constitute a serious thing that you'd have to consider?
Well, you have to weigh it against who you think you'll get at the second pick. And, we're a little bit impatient. So if you came across something that made your team better quicker, probably be a veteran, then that's something you would consider. But there's something to be said for having the number 2 pick in terms of building going forward. You're going to get a really good player. You're going to get a player under a contract that you'll be able to control for at least 5 years at a reasonable amount before you have to consider an extension. So those are pluses, in addition to getting a heck of a talent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right.